The azure light of the Nexus Prime conference chamber cast long shadows across the faces of the assembled delegates. Ambassador Lena Reyes of Earth stood tall despite her diminutive stature compared to the various alien representatives surrounding her. 3 years of negotiations had yielded nothing but frustration and mounting tension between humanity and the self-proclaimed mature species of the Galactic Alliance. Lena studied the faces around her. Some displayed curiosity, others contempt. But most revealed the same patronizing expression she had grown accustomed to. Humanity was the newcomer, the upstart civilization that had achieved faster-than-light travel too quickly for their own good. As High Counselor Jar had once remarked when he thought her translator was offline, "The Council has deliberated," Jar announced, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. The Vexari diplomat's 4 eyes blinked in unison as he continued. "We have reached a consensus regarding Earth's petition for full membership status." Lena straightened, maintaining the practiced diplomatic smile that had become second nature during her tenure as Earth's ambassador. For 3 years, she had shuttled between this chamber and Earth's colonial outposts, working tirelessly to secure humanity's place among the stars. 3 years of concessions, compromises, and what increasingly felt like capitulations. The Galactic Alliance recognizes humanity's rapid advancement. Jar continued, mandibles clicking in what Lena had learned was a gesture of condescension among his kind. However, for the safety of all civilizations, including your own, certain precautions must be established. The holographic display in the center of the chamber illuminated, projecting the terms of the Alliance's decision. Lena scanned the document, her diplomatic mask slipping for just a moment as she processed its contents. "This is not a negotiation," Jar added, noticing her expression. "This is the Alliance's final position." The ultimatum was clear. Humanity must surrender its defensive fleet and cede control of 6 colonial systems. In exchange, they would receive protected species status within the Alliance, effectively becoming wards of the older civilizations. Lena's mind raced. She had been authorized to make concessions, but nothing of this magnitude. This wasn't an offer of membership. It was a demand for submission. "High Counselor," she began, her voice steady despite the anger building within her. "I must consult with Earth's Unified Council before responding to such significant terms." "Of course," Jar replied with artificial graciousness. "The Alliance understands that younger species require more deliberation. You have 7 standard cycles to present your acceptance." "To present our response," Lena corrected firmly. A ripple of murmurs spread through the chamber. Correction was considered impolite in Alliance diplomatic protocol, but Lena had ceased caring about such niceties. "Your response," Jar conceded with a stiff nod. 7 cycles, Ambassador Reyes." As the chamber emptied, Lena remained seated, staring at the holographic document still hovering before her. The terms represented everything humanity had feared when they first encountered the Alliance. Not partners, but patrons. Not equals, but subordinates. A gentle tap on her shoulder pulled her from her thoughts. She turned to find Dr. Atiro, a Solarian scientist she had come to respect during her time on Nexus Prime. "Not all of us agree with these terms," the scientist whispered, his luminescent skin dimming to ensure their conversation remained private. "But the Council fears your kind's potential, your adaptability, your unpredictability." "Is that why they want our colonies, our ships?" Lena asked. Dr. Atiro's expression, what passed for one on his featureless face, turned solemn. "They believe you advanced too quickly. The Vexari developed warp technology after 15,000 years of space exploration. Your species achieved it in less than 300. And that frightens them." "Yes," the scientist admitted. "It does." Lena nodded, gathering her materials. "Thank you for your candor, Dr. Atiro. I value our friendship." "What will Earth do?" he asked, genuine concern in his voice. Lena paused at the chamber entrance. What we've always done when faced with impossible choices. We'll find another way. The quantum communication relay connecting Nexus Prime to Earth carried Lena's urgent message to the Unified Council. Within hours, an emergency session convened in the underground chambers beneath New Geneva. They're not asking us to join, Lena explained to the assembled representatives. They're demanding our surrender. President Kaito Nakamura, elected just months earlier on a platform of interstellar cooperation, looked visibly shaken. These terms would effectively end human autonomy beyond our solar system. Precisely, Lena confirmed. We would become a protectorate, allowed to exist under their supervision, nothing more. Admiral Kira Thandal, the highest-ranking officer of Earth's defense fleet, spoke next. We've suspected this was coming. Intelligence from our outposts has reported increased Alliance military presence near our colonial systems. They're positioning themselves to enforce these terms, regardless of our answer. Can we resist militarily? A counselor asked. Admiral Thandal's expression hardened. The Alliance outnumbers us significantly, but numbers aren't everything. Our technology has developed along different paths. We have certain advantages they may not anticipate. We didn't come this far to surrender our sovereignty, Counselor Mbeki declared, his fist pounding the table. Our ancestors fought too hard for freedom on Earth to relinquish it among the stars. President Nakamura raised his hand for silence. We need options, not rhetoric. Ambassador Reyes, in your assessment, is there any room for further negotiation? Lena considered the question carefully. I've spent 3 years negotiating with the Alliance. They view compromise as weakness. Each concession we've made has only led to greater demands. I believe these terms represent their true intention all along, to contain us. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Then, we need an alternative to both surrender and open conflict. The President concluded, Admiral Thandal, what defensive capabilities do we have if the Alliance attempts to enforce their ultimatum? The Admiral activated a holographic display. Our fleet is outnumbered but not outmatched. Our ships are more adaptable. Our crews more innovative. In a direct confrontation, we could inflict significant damage, but ultimately, we would likely be overwhelmed. Then we don't confront them directly, Lena suggested, an idea forming. All eyes turned to her. Earth has always been resilient because we're adaptable, she continued. When faced with superior force, we don't always stand and fight. Sometimes we withdraw, regroup, and find another path forward. You're suggesting we abandon our colonies? A counselor asked incredulously. I am suggesting we evacuate them, Lena clarified. Temporarily, but we do so on our terms, not theirs. Admiral Thandal leaned forward, intrigued. A strategic withdrawal. More than that, Lena said. The Alliance has grown dependent on human innovation, our medical technologies, our agricultural methods, our computational systems. They've integrated them all without truly understanding how they work. President Nakamura's eyes widened as he grasped her meaning. You're proposing we show them exactly what they'd lose if they force us out? Yes, Lena nodded. But we need to act quickly, before they can prepare alternatives. The Council debated through the night, weighing options and consequences. By dawn, they had reached a decision. Operation Exodus would commence immediately, the most ambitious and secretive evacuation in human history. Admiral Thandal dispatched coded messages to all human outposts and colonies. Within hours, civilian transports began quietly departing Alliance space, their movements disguised as routine supply runs or research expeditions. On Titan's research hub, scientists worked feverishly to download crucial data and dismantle proprietary equipment. The facility had been the birthplace of the atmospheric processors that had transformed 17 Alliance worlds from barren rocks to habitable paradises. Dr. Eleanor West, head of the research division, supervised the evacuation personally. Pack only what's irreplaceable, she instructed her team. Everything else can be rebuilt. The Alliance will notice soon, her assistant pointed out, watching as quantum storage units were carefully loaded onto waiting shuttles. That's the point, Dr. West replied with a grim smile. They need to understand what they're losing. At Kepler Station, the largest human settlement outside the solar system, 40,000 colonists prepared to leave homes they had built over generations. Captain Marcus Okafor coordinated the evacuation with military precision, prioritizing children, the elderly, and essential personnel. We'll return, he promised the assembled colonists. This is not surrender, it's strategic repositioning. Some wept as they boarded the transports, carrying only what they could in their allocated cargo space. Others worked with quiet determination, dismantling the colony's infrastructure piece by piece. Leave nothing that could be weaponized against us, were Admiral Thandal's orders. But do no lasting damage to Alliance infrastructure or ecosystems. On New Texas, the agricultural colony that had become the breadbasket for 12 Alliance worlds. Farmers harvested what crops they could and destroyed the rest. Special care was taken with the genetically modified seed banks, humanity's gift to the stars, now being reclaimed. Sheriff Juanita Rodriguez, the colony's elected leader, stood watching as the last transport prepared for departure. My great-grandfather helped plant the first fields here, she told the remaining colonists. He said Earth was in our blood, but the stars were in our future. Well, there are plenty more stars out there. As the evacuation proceeded, Lena returned to Nexus Prime for one final attempt at negotiation. She knew it would fail, but it would buy precious time for Operation Exodus to continue. Ambassador Reyes, High Counselor Jar greeted her with obvious surprise. We did not expect your return before the deadline. Some matters are too important to delay, Lena replied. I've come with a counterproposal from Earth. The council chamber filled quickly. News of Earth's response had spread throughout the diplomatic corps of Nexus Prime. The terms you've offered are unacceptable, Lena began bluntly. Earth proposes instead a graduated integration process, maintaining our defensive capabilities while establishing joint oversight of colonial administration. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Her proposal was reasonable, too reasonable to dismiss outright without revealing the Alliance's true intentions. High Counselor Jar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. Your proposal fails to address the Council's primary concerns regarding humanity's unchecked expansion and technological development. Unchecked? Lena challenged. We've submitted to every inspection, shared our research findings, and complied with all territorial restrictions. What more could you possibly want, High Counselor, except our complete subjugation? The chamber fell silent. Such directness violated diplomatic protocols. But Lena no longer cared for the pretense. The Alliance has existed for 12,000 years, Jar responded coldly. We have guided dozens of species through their developmental stages. Your resistance to our wisdom demonstrates precisely why humanity requires supervision. Guidance is offered, not imposed, Lena countered. Wisdom is shared, not dictated. You speak of humanity as if we were children in need of discipline rather than equals deserving of respect. You are not equals, Jar exclaimed, his composure finally breaking. Your species crawled from your planet's oceans mere moments ago in cosmic terms. You achieved spaceflight while still waging wars among yourselves. You are dangerous, unpredictable, and must be contained for the good of all civilizations, including your own. Lena looked around the chamber, noting the expressions of the other delegates. Many appeared uncomfortable with Jar's outburst, but none spoke in humanity's defense. I see, she said quietly. Then there is nothing more to discuss. You will accept our terms, Jar stated, regaining his diplomatic tone. The alternative would be unfortunate for your colonies. Lena met his four-eyed gaze steadily. We will respond formally within your deadline. High Counselor. As she left the chamber, Dr. Atiro fell into step beside her. That was not productive, the scientist observed. It wasn't meant to be, Lena admitted. I just needed to confirm what we already suspected. The Alliance never intended to accept us as equals. What will you do? Dr. Atiro asked, genuine concern in his voice. Lena smiled sadly. Survive. Adapt. What humanity has always done. Unknown to the Alliance, the evacuation was proceeding ahead of schedule. Nearly 60% of human colonists had already been transported to safe harbors within Sol system, or to previously undisclosed outposts beyond Alliance space. But the most critical phase was yet to come. For decades, humanity had integrated its technology throughout Alliance infrastructure. Human-designed atmospheric processors maintained breathable air on terraformed worlds. Human agricultural methods fed billions across dozens of species. Human medical techniques saved lives throughout Alliance space. All of these systems contained a feature unknown to the Alliance, a recognition protocol that verified they were being operated by or for human benefit. It had never been activated, considered only a last resort measure against exploitation. Until now. Admiral Thandal stood on the bridge of the ISS Vanguard, Earth's flagship, reviewing final preparations. Status of the withdrawal? 87% complete, Admiral. Her executive officer reported. Remaining colonies will be evacuated within 12 hours. And the protocol? Ready for implementation on your command. The Admiral nodded solemnly. This isn't a decision we take lightly. Once activated, there's no going back. The Council's authorization was unanimous, the officer reminded her. I know, Admiral Thandal replied. I just wish there had been another way. On Nexus Prime, the first signs that something was amiss came when the atmospheric processors in the diplomatic district began showing error messages. Within hours, similar reports flooded in from across Alliance space. Communication networks faltered. Power generation facilities initiated emergency shutdowns. Automated medical systems went into diagnostic loops. Agricultural drones ceased operation mid-harvest. Panic spread as Alliance technicians scrambled to understand the cascading failures. None of their override codes worked. None of their diagnostic tools could identify the cause. The Alliance Security Council convened an emergency session, summoning representatives from every technical division. Explain this catastrophe, High Counselor Jar demanded. We're experiencing system-wide failures in all human-designed infrastructure, the chief technician reported, his voice trembling. The systems are intact but unresponsive to our commands. Override them! We've tried. It appears there are authentication protocols we were unaware of. Sabotage, Jar hissed. Find Ambassador Reyes immediately. But Lena was already aboard the ISS Vanguard, which had quietly departed Nexus Prime during the growing chaos. From the command deck, she watched on the view screen as the Alliance's carefully constructed order began to unravel. Transmission from Alliance Security Council, the communications officer announced. On screen, Lena directed. High Counselor Jar's face appeared, his usual composure completely abandoned. What have you done? He demanded. Nothing irreversible, Lena answered calmly. Yet, your systems are failing across our territories. Millions could die if atmospheric processors fail completely. They won't fail completely, Lena assured him. They'll maintain minimum life support indefinitely, but they will no longer terraform, grow, or advance. Just like you wanted for humanity, contained and static. This is an act of war. No. High Counselor, this is an act of independence. Humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Alliance, effective immediately. Jar's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. You cannot simply withdraw. Your colonies have been evacuated, Lena interrupted. While you were preparing to enforce your ultimatum, we were preparing our response. For once, the High Counselor was speechless. Let me be clear, Lena continued. We did not disable your systems. We simply removed our ongoing consent for their use. The technology remains functional, but will no longer operate without human authorization. You would hold the entire alliance hostage? We would show you the true meaning of dependence, Lena corrected. You wanted to make humanity dependent on your protection. Instead, you made yourselves dependent on our innovation. In that moment, alarms sounded throughout Nexus Prime. On screens across the diplomatic quarter, reports flooded in of unidentified vessels appearing at the edges of Alliance space, human ships, employing technology the Alliance had never encountered before. What is happening? Jar demanded. Insurance, Lena explained. Those ships are ensuring our safe departure. They won't fire unless fired upon. But I wouldn't test their capabilities if I were you. You've been hiding your true technological advancement, Jar accused. We've been developing along our own path, Lena countered, as is our right. Reports continued to stream in. The human vessels had appeared simultaneously at 27 locations throughout Alliance space, disabling defensive systems without causing damage. They moved with impunity, seemingly immune to tracking or targeting. Human space is now closed, Lena announced formally. We will establish new borders and transmit them to the Alliance within 7 standard cycles, the same deadline you gave us. Any incursion will be considered an act of aggression. The Alliance will not stand for this. The Alliance has no choice, Lena replied evenly. You can either accept our independence and negotiate for the restoration of your systems, or you can maintain your pride and watch your carefully constructed dominion crumble around you. She signaled her communications officer to end the transmission. Admiral Thandal approached her as the screen went dark. That went as expected. Yes, Lena agreed. They never imagined we could simply leave. Most prison guards don't, the Admiral observed dryly. Throughout Alliance space, the consequences of humanity's departure became immediately apparent. On Draxus Prime, the medical center's automated surgical units ceased functioning mid-procedure, forcing emergency protocols. On Vexar, the capital world of High Counselor Jar's species, agricultural production halted as soil enrichment systems went offline. Governments that had taken human technology for granted suddenly faced angry populations demanding answers. Corporations that had built their fortunes on modified human designs found themselves with products they could no longer manufacture or repair. The Alliance Council remained in constant session, trying desperately to formulate a response. Some members called for immediate military action against Earth. Others, recognizing the vulnerability the human withdrawal had exposed, argued for negotiation. We cannot attack, the Solarian representative insisted. Our warships rely on human-designed navigation systems. They would be flying blind. We cannot surrender to their blackmail, Jar countered. It would undermine the very foundation of the Alliance. Perhaps that foundation needs re-examination, Dr. Atiro suggested, speaking from the scientific advisor's podium. We claim to welcome humanity as partners while planning their subjugation. We harvested their innovations while dismissing their potential. We have reaped what we have sown. On Earth, the Unified Council monitored the Alliance's disarray with mixed emotions. There was no celebration, no triumph in what necessity had forced them to do. Alliance representatives have requested urgent negotiations, President Nakamura informed the Council. They're offering significantly improved terms. I imagine they are, Admiral Thandal remarked. What should our response be? Asked Counselor Mbeki. Lena, newly returned from her final mission to Alliance space, spoke up. We should agree to negotiate, but not from a position of subjugation or even equality. We negotiate as an independent power, with our own path forward. And if they refuse, then we continue on our own. Lena said simply. Humanity's future isn't bound to the Alliance. There are other civilizations beyond their borders, other paths among the stars. Indeed, as news of humanity's decisive action spread, representatives from independent systems and non-Alliance civilizations began arriving in Earth orbit, seeking trade agreements and diplomatic relations. The human ships that had appeared so mysteriously at the edges of Alliance space now established patrol routes along newly declared borders. Their technology, a combination of quantum displacement and gravitic manipulation, remained indecipherable to Alliance observers. Jax Holt, a communications officer aboard the border patrol vessel Hermes, recorded in his personal log, "The Alliance vessels watch us constantly, but keep their distance. Their sensors sweep us continuously, trying to understand how we appear and disappear at will. They won't discover our methods because they're looking for technological solutions to what is fundamentally a different way of thinking about space-time." Across formerly human colonies, Alliance survey teams discovered that while structures remained intact, all proprietary technology and data had been removed. Atmospheric processors continued functioning at maintenance levels, but the knowledge to advance or replicate them was gone. On Nexus Prime, Dr. Atiro reviewed the latest reports with growing concern. The cascading effects of humanity's withdrawal were proving more severe than anticipated. 17 Alliance worlds now faced critical resource shortages. 3 systems had declared states of emergency as medical supplies dwindled. "We underestimated our dependence," he told the Emergency Scientific Council. Humanity didn't just provide technology, they provided innovation itself, the ability to adapt and overcome obstacles that we had forgotten after millennia of stability. High Counselor Jar, whose influence had waned considerably since the crisis began, approached Dr. Atiro after the session. "You were friendly with the human ambassador," he said, mandibles clicking softly. "Did you know this would happen?" "I knew humanity would not accept subjugation," Dr. Atiro replied carefully. "The specifics, no. But the principle was clear to anyone who truly studied their history, instead of just their technology." "How do we resolve this situation?" Jar asked, his former arrogance replaced by genuine uncertainty. "By recognizing our mistake," Dr. Atiro answered. "We treated them as resources to be managed rather than partners to be valued. That must change." Meanwhile, humanity was forging its own path. The evacuated colonists, rather than returning to an already crowded Earth, embarked on a bold new venture. The colony ship Harmony, the largest vessel ever constructed by human hands, departed the Sol system bound for the NGC 421 region, far beyond Alliance influence. Lena Reyes stood on the observation deck, watching the massive ship begin its journey. Beside her, Admiral Thandal gazed at the departing vessel with undisguised pride. 20,000 colonists, the Admiral remarked. "A new beginning beyond Alliance space." "A continuation," Lena corrected gently, "of what humanity has always done: explore, adapt, overcome." "The Alliance is still demanding we restore their systems," Admiral Thandal noted. "And we will, once proper agreements are in place," Lena assured her. "We didn't withdraw to punish them, but to establish our independence. Once that's secure, cooperation can resume on equal terms." 6 months after humanity's withdrawal, the first formal treaty between Earth and the Galactic Alliance was signed, not on Nexus Prime, but on neutral territory, the previously uninhabited world of Concordia, now serving as a diplomatic waypoint between human space and Alliance territory. The terms recognized humanity's sovereign borders, established protocols for technological exchange, and most importantly, acknowledged Earth's status as an independent power rather than a member or protectorate of the Alliance. As negotiations concluded, High Counselor Jar, who had survived the political fallout of the crisis, though with diminished authority, approached Lena. "Your strategy was effective," he admitted reluctantly, "though the cost to many worlds has been severe." "A cost that could have been avoided," Lena pointed out, "had the Alliance sought partnership instead of dominance." "Perhaps," Jar conceded. "But remember, Ambassador, independence brings responsibility as well as freedom. The galaxy is watching to see what humanity will do with both. As are we, Lena replied. But we'll determine our path ourselves, for better or worse. That's all we ever wanted. Throughout the galaxy, news broadcasts carried footage of the colony ship Harmony entering the NGC 421 region, where humanity had already begun establishing outposts free from Alliance oversight. The narration, translated into dozens of languages, concluded, "Humanity has chosen its own path. Now each civilization must confront its own dependencies, its own assumptions, and perhaps most challengingly, its own future in a galaxy where the established order can no longer be taken for granted." On worlds across Alliance space, citizens watch these broadcasts with mixed emotions: concern about continued technological disruptions, curiosity about this species that had defied expectations, and for some, a newfound question about their own society's rigidity and dependence. Dr. Atiro, watching from his laboratory on Nexus Prime, perhaps understood better than most. "They didn't defeat us," he explained to his puzzled colleagues. "They simply refused to be defeated. There's a profound difference, one I suspect we'll spend generations learning to appreciate." The human border vessels continued their patrols, their mysterious technology still confounding Alliance observers. Occasionally, they would appear without warning deep within Alliance territory, not as threats, but as reminders that boundaries in space were ultimately conventions, not absolutes. Jax Holt, promoted to Senior Communications Officer on the ISS Intrepid, recorded in his log, "The Alliance still doesn't understand. They keep scanning our ships, trying to reverse engineer our displacement technology. But what makes us different isn't just our tools. It's our willingness to question assumptions, to reject limitations others accept as immutable. That's the real technology they can't replicate." On Earth, the Unified Council continued monitoring the aftermath of their withdrawal. Reports indicated that while initial chaos had subsided, the Alliance was undergoing significant political realignment. Civilizations that had long accepted their subordinate status were now questioning the hierarchy that had placed species like the Vexari at the top. "We may have triggered more than we intended," President Nakamura observed during a council session. "Revolution often works that way," Lena replied. "We sought only our independence. But in achieving it, we demonstrated that the established order wasn't as immutable as it appeared." Admiral Thandal, reviewing the latest intelligence, added, "Several non-Alliance civilizations have requested our assistance in developing independent technological bases. They've watched what happened and don't want to find themselves in the Alliance's position." "We should help them," Councillor Mbeki suggested, "not to create dependency, but to foster true independence. A network of sovereign partners instead of a hierarchical alliance," Lena mused. "It could transform interstellar relations entirely." As the discussions continued, a message arrived from the Harmony expedition. The colony ship had reached its destination and begun establishing humanity's first truly independent extrasolar settlement. The transmission included images of an azure world, remarkably Earth-like, orbiting a stable yellow star. "We've named it Liberty," the expedition leader reported. "Seems appropriate, given the circumstances." President Nakamura smiled at the announcement. "From crisis comes opportunity. From confrontation, clarity about who we truly are and what we truly value." "And what is that?" Admiral Thandal asked. "The freedom to determine our own destiny," the President replied. "Not just for ourselves, but for all who seek it." Throughout human space, this sentiment resonated. What had begun as a desperate withdrawal had transformed into something more profound, a new understanding of humanity's place among the stars. Not as subjects or even equals within an existing order, but as architects of something different. Lena Reyes, standing once again on the observation deck of the ISS Vanguard, watched as Earth receded behind her. Her new mission would take her beyond Alliance space, to civilizations the Alliance had long ignored or dismissed as insignificant. "Human space is open," she whispered to herself, inverting the phrase that had marked their withdrawal. "Just not to those who would control us." The ship engaged its displacement drive, vanishing from conventional space-time in a subtle ripple of gravitational distortion, humanity's signature, written across the stars. Behind them, the Alliance continued its painful adaptation to a new reality. Ahead lay uncharted possibilities, and in between, a lesson written in the language of independence. Respect cannot be demanded, only earned. Cooperation thrives on equality, not hierarchy, and even the most established order is only as permanent as those within it allow it to be. The galaxy had begun to fear not what humanity might do, but what their example might inspire others to become. And perhaps, Lena reflected, as her ship emerged near the borders of the Sagittarian Confederation, that was the most powerful statement they could have made, that chains, once recognized, need not be accepted, that paths, once imposed, need not be followed, and that the future, once prescribed, could always be reimagined. Human space was not just a territory, it was an idea. And ideas, as the Alliance was learning to its dismay, were the most difficult things in the universe to contain.